Hey everyone, it's Nick with Comic Experience Sci-Fi. I'm at Motor City Nightmares 2024, and I got a real treat for you guys. A lot of you know the Ed and Lorraine Warren personalities from the Conjuring films. The two main characters are Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they are demonologists, and they help families who are under demonic oppression, possession. But actually, I got into Ed and Lorraine Warren back in the late 80s through a book called The Demonologist that chronicled several of their cases, including the original Annabelle case, which is terrifying. Well, I'm here with Jason McLeod. He's a writer. He's a demonologist himself, and he actually worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren and apprenticed with them, and actually came to them through the exact same book, The Demonologist. So, Jason, tell us what led you to The Demonologist, and then take it from there.
So I was always interested in ghosts as a young man. I was always in the library studying cases about spirit phenomena. And as a senior in high school in Westport, Connecticut in 1986, I pulled off the book, The Demonologist, off the shelf, and it scared the hell out of me for the families that were enduring this type of activity, especially the children, because no child should have to endure the horrors that they went through in their own home. And I put the book back on the shelf. I was with my friend Lou 4 years later, who was an Army combat medic and a current paramedic. And we were listening to the radio about a case about the Warrens. And I said, that'd be so cool to work with them. And he said, yeah, no kidding. Big burly dude, right? Mustache. The next night he called me and said, you aren't going to believe who just called me. Who? Ed Warren. I'm like, what? Right? Ed was having heart issues at the time. He wanted a medic for their team. So Norwalk was the nearest major EMS hub. Asked the chief of EMS for a referral. He gave him Lou's phone number. And he invited him to their Monday night class that next night. And I said, you have to get me in there. It's time. Now, it wasn't time 4 years prior, right? But I call that the universal law of intention. That'd be so cool to work with them. Yeah, no kidding, right? And then the universal law of conscious manifestation, and boom, okay? So he told Lorraine all about the synchronicity. Not coincidence, but synchronicity there. That'd be so cool to work with them. Yeah, no kidding, right? And then the phone call. So she said, okay, invite Jason next Monday night. So I got to go the next Monday night and open the door. This Drew Thompson, who's a friend of mine to this day, he's a psychic. He was one of the original Warren investigators, invited me in. Lorraine's in the distance and comes literally gliding up to me. Hi, Jason, I'm Lorraine Warren, honey. You know, how strong is your faith, honey? Was the first question she asked me, right? And I said, I have immense faith. I believe that I and the Father are one, right? As are we all. We're all connected to the Creator. We're never separate. Why do you want to get involved in work of this nature, right? And I said, I read your book, The Demonologist. I was terrified for the children. I want to help, right? So it's a calling then, she asked me. And I said, I believe it is. Welcome aboard. So I got to go in, and it's like walking into the wizard's castle, right? This amazing, enigmatic couple. They were like the grandparents you wish you had, even though I loved my grandparents dearly. They were like so incredible. And I got to go into the class, right? And in walks Ed in his flannel shirt, you know, pulls down the view screen, the video screen, and starts talking about the current cases they're investigating. And they talked about a brand new case that they became aware of. They sent Lou and I on that case. This is his second class. This is my first class. The next evening, representing them. And I'm like, what? Right? So I wrote about that. I was a student at Sacred Heart University, and I wrote a newspaper column called Hauntings in 1990 in November about my very first case and other cases, and that blew me away, and it scared Lou about 50% out the door, and I was completely hooked.
What did you experience when you went there?
Oh, wow. Okay, so it was a family, a husband and wife, and a newborn. They bought a used home. They claimed every evening a spirit or an apparition would walk through their bedroom wall, ignore them completely, walk down the hallway to the baby's room where the crib was, stop in front of the crib, scare the baby out of its wits, walk through the crib and disappear through that wall every evening. Didn't make any sense because it's a second story level, right? So I borrowed my mom's camcorder, 1986, right? Bought a tripod, put some candles in the room, drew the blinds so there's just a little bit of illumination, and we all waited in the baby's room waiting to see this apparition walk down the hallway. We all heard a clack noise and a bright blue flash of light in that bedroom across the hall, like lightning had gone off in there. That's how bright it was. We all just looked at each other like, oh my God, we're gonna get the best footage ever in our first case. But is that the doorway opening? Is that the door, the portal, the Stargate, the wormhole? Is she going to come walking down the hallway? Let's wait and see. And nothing happened. Upon re-entering the room, we all smelled a very potent almond smell, like a perfumed almond smell, and nothing else. And we retreated back into the baby's room, and exactly 30 minutes later, another crack of light, another crack, another flash of light, and upon re-entering the room, the smell, all of which were about 50% diminished. And after nothing happened for the remainder of the evening, we were gravely disappointed didn't get to see a spirit. We wanted to see what we got on that tape, so we put it in our VHR machine, and we fast forwarded and hit play at the same time. You know, you see the fast forwarding and the lights flickering, the candles. And when we stopped, we heard, we've just experienced the second flash of light. There was nothing at all. No increase in illumination at all on the tape, but Lou picked up a heartbeat. That's a diarthritic heartbeat. I think that's the correct name. He detected 3 different heartbeats, one after the other. He was white as a ghost. Now, the camcorder was never sensitive enough to pick up somebody's heartbeat, nor was anybody standing in there when it picked up the heartbeat, right? We didn't know what to make of it. So I dropped the tape off to the Warrens' house the next day, and upon the next class, we got to listen to what was going on. And Lorraine told us that this woman obviously was there, but she wasn't going to give us an apparition image, but she projected that light into our third eyes. Our pineal glands, which are photosensitive. It has rods and cones. It's how we see full-color dreams in a pitch-black room with our eyes closed, right? It's how we daydream and see movies in our head. It's our interdimensional interface. So she projected that light. And also the smell, because there was no physical presence creating a scent or a light or a heartbeat, but the heartbeat was projected onto the tape where the light and the scent could not be. Fascinating. But she always said, all hauntings begin in the mind, right? So if you're sitting in your home alone and you know no one is upstairs, but you hear creaking floorboards happening, there's no physical weight being applied to those floorboards. So how is this possible? It's because the spirit that's in the house is projecting what the sound of creaking floorboards would sound like to get your attention, right? This was an earthbound human spirit. It was a female.
I was going to say, there's no
evidence. For whatever reason, she was present in that house, and she was giving the couple evidence that she was there, but wouldn't give it to us, which was strange. But Lou was scared about 50% out the door at that point, because he could deal with physical horrors, but not supernatural stuff, you know? And again, he had no interest in this previously, but I did. But he was called in as a medic, right? So he really was supposed to be there to help Ed deal with potential heart issues during the really hairy cases that they were on, because they only got involved personally in the really severe cases. They sent us investigators, about 12 of us or so in the whole group, New England Society for Psychic Research, on the minor cases that involved something that wasn't too serious. But they got involved personally when it was really bad, and Ed was having heart issues, you know?
Jason, I'm sure you're familiar with the name of Stephen Kaplan.
No.
Stephen Kaplan wrote a book attacking the Warrens and debunking the Amityville Horror. Now does that ring a bell? So was the Amityville Horror authentic?
I wasn't there. I can't even talk about it. You know,
but Lorraine and Ed swear.
They swear it was. You know, so here's the thing. They've gotten a lot of negative press. I came in 1990, so I can really only talk about the cases that I was personally involved in. I do know Carmen Snedeker personally, who was the Haunting in Connecticut principal. In fact, she reviewed my book. And the problem is that Hollywood, when they sold their rights, Hollywood can do what they will with any of the material since they bought the rights. So in A Haunting in Connecticut, there are no bodies in the walls, you know, that they put in there. And Carmen was upset about that because it makes her case look foolish, makes the Warrens look suspicious, right? Because none of that really happened. So people, I mean, if you look at these stand-ups, half of the people don't even know what the Warrens really looked like. They know that Vera and whatever the other actor is that played the guy. Sorry, guy, if you're listening to this, I don't know what your name is. Good acting, though. The Warrens were very genuine, serious people. And Lorraine's, they were like the grandparents you wish you had. And Lorraine was always very seriously concerned about the safety of the investigators. again, very serious cases. And Ed was always very serious, always cracking jokes, trying to raise the vibration because everything is frequency and vibration. Love is the highest, fear is the lowest, right? And a lot of these situations are bad. So as far as the Amityville case, I can't comment. As far as the the Enfield case that's in the Demonologist and the Enfield voices and things like that, they have stuff on audio, right? So I know that the cases that I worked on with them, in fact, I'm writing a full-length novel about a case in Vermont that we investigated together. I have the audio from that case, which I now showcase at a lot of these conventions, where everybody's freaked out of their minds. Lorraine almost called the case off before we even went there, because I almost lost my life on the way to getting to the Warrens to pick them up. That's a mind blower right there. And they realized that something was trying to prevent us from getting there. So my story is, if you have time, I offered to drive my mother's brand new Caravan to pick Lorraine and Ed up and several other investigators as one of the vehicles that we were going to use. I got in the car first thing in the morning, Saturday morning, woke up, got in the car, put my hands on the wheel, and was guided to do something I'd never done before. And I said, I wash this car in the blood of Jesus Christ, that we are protected, right? We arrive safely and return safely in Jesus' name, amen. And I said, that was weird, right? I've never done that before. And it wasn't really purported to be a very dangerous case, even though the family had fled, right, up in Vermont. I got on the Merritt Parkway in Connecticut. It's a 2-lane road north, 2-lane road south, beautiful median in the between. I'm in the left lane going, the speed limit. I look in my rearview mirror and there's a car that's whipping up behind me and said, okay, it's Saturday morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, he's going to blow by me, and that's that. Raced up, matched my speed, and remained parallel with me. And I'm like, what the heck, right? Black BMW, right? And I speed up, slow down, he speeds up, slows down. And I didn't even look to see who it was. I couldn't tell who it was. But I was just focused on driving. I was a young guy at the time. I didn't want to wreck my mother's car. And all of a sudden, that car it leapt a car length ahead of me, right? Just like, right? And I was like, what in the hell? Then it starts to vibrate. As I'm watching, it's vibrating. It starts to shake like this. Starts to fishtail, and white smoke's coming out from underneath the wheels. Fishtail, whoop, right into my lane, 90-degree angle. I hit the brakes, plowed right into him, blasted his windows out. The state police came. He said it's like I hit solid ice, right? The state police, it's November 30th, there's no ice, but it was, so he got the ticket. There were no cell phones. So by the time I got cleared to go, 45 minutes later, I got to the payphone on exit 44 in Fairfield and called the Warrens, and I explained I was just involved in an accident. I'm sorry I'm late. There was a long pause. Tell me exactly what happened, was Lorraine's voice, right? And I explained it. And I heard them talking, are you still willing to come? And I said, yeah, the van's drivable. I'm a little shaken up, but I'm okay, and I'm eager to participate in this case with them. And so I got there. John Zaffis is looking at his watch going, what'd you do, oversleep, and things like that. Walk inside. And Lorraine almost called the entire case off because something took control of that black BMW and flung it into my lane to prevent me from picking them up and then thus preventing us from getting there. But had I not prayed over that van, we all have the power to do that. I believe I could have been seriously hurt or worse, right? But she realized there's a force there, a demonic force, because no human spirit can take control of a car, preventing us from getting up there. And that was a mind bender. That case, I had my first deeply powerful empathic experience up there. It was my first genuine psychic experience other than the blue light. And that changed my life because I said I want to be able to see. I want to see, because Lorraine was seeing this spirit in the house with a black top hat. So was Drew, the psychic. The table's shaking. Ed's trying to initiate contact. You hear my voice go, Lorraine, the sadness, and literally bawled my eyes out. I could not stop the tears from streaming out of my eyes. I felt a sadness like I've never felt before. And it was the sadness or the grief that this earthbound human spirit felt because she had lost her life in transit to the house to deliver the baby 150 years prior. And I was completely overcome. And that changed my life because to see a ghost would be really cool. But to feel the anguish that they are experiencing made me want to help them even more, right? Because that's why I got involved in the first place. And she had lost her child, of course, during that accident. And she's in search of her baby. Must be. Where's my baby? Where's my baby? I couldn't imagine the grief. But now I would tell her, just cross over, go through the light. That's where your baby's waiting for you, because it never came down to fuse with the baby in the first place before birth to experience its life expression, right? Fascinating stuff, but it's all about helping people, you know?
That's amazing. What is the most, or what are the most physical, like, have you ever seen anything float or lift off a table?
Yep.
What are the most physical things you've seen that prove to you beyond all doubt that there is spiritual energy that can control physical objects?
Yep. I was in a case in Idaho. I investigated on the Warrens' behalf because I was at college at Eastern Washington, and actually I'm writing about that now. It's called Rage in Rathdrum. And I took a friend of mine who was a football player. We're both 6'6", and we went to investigate. And as we were there investigating, there was a box full of wood, big firebox, right, made of wood itself, which is probably at least 75 pounds, loaded with firewood, slide right across the floor, right, with our own eyes, a rocking chair moving back and forth, and so forth, lights going on and off, doors closing by themselves. And they don't really close by themselves because there is an energy projected onto them that's moving them, and nothing's really physical as we understand physicality to be. Everything's frequency and vibration. So to us, nothing can move a physical object, but we can only see visible light, which is 1% of everything around us, right? We're blind in these bodies. Cats and dogs can see more than we can, but that box easily could have weighed well over 150 pounds, and that is definitely not a human spirit that can lift only a couple pounds in weight. That was the most intense physical object, but I've seen crazy things, man. I mean, this case that I wrote about called Dark Siege, A Connecticut Family's Nightmare, that I became involved with in 1993, the family was never going to come forward about it. They were terrified of a three-peat because they came back after them a second time, including incubus and succubus attacks, which were sexual, so I had to make it a separate volume. They wanted to warn people, especially children, don't mess with Ouija boards. Don't get involved in seances. Don't invite these things into your life. Don't open those doorways, right? But horrible, amazing, mind-blending things. But the thing is, just like the light was projected into our eyes, these demonic entities that came in through the use of the Ouija board and then thus being challenged projected mass projections on all, like 6 people at a time, mass hundreds or millions of flies coming out of the sink drain, right? Which wasn't physically happening, but to them it was happening, right? And the evidence disappearing before their eyes from a fly carcass, right? All of a sudden they were all dead, right? And a fly carcass turning into liquid black water in the baggie because they wanted evidence before their eyes, and then disappearing, the water completely evaporating until there's nothing inside the baggie again, right? All the organic foodstuffs in the refrigerator being moved from within the refrigerator onto the floor in a flash, like they'd been sitting there for months, rotting and festering in absolute stink. And all of the containers within the refrigerator are crystal clear, like they'd been run through the dishwasher. A pool of urine that appeared in the spot where the boys had used the Ouija board that was so deep in the carpet that 6 different bath towels wouldn't even dent it, and then gone within a flash. And the towels smelling like car wax, yet all of it's there. And it's all meant to crack the psyche, to cause you to emit fear, right, which they use against you because that's their fuel source. They're extra low vibrational beings. They use the fear to fuel themselves and to weaken you. Fear also makes your aura porous, as does alcohol and drugs, right? Ooh, tingles every time I talk about it, to work their way into your body and to help, they don't fully possess you in that state, but their goal is to break you down enough that it just, oppression. And yes, absolutely.
I just want to ask, Lorraine and Ed, of course, would say a demonic spirit is a spirit that never walked the earth in human form. What does that mean?
It means that we're all fields of awareness, right? And these are beings that are preternatural in origin, that existed before humanity was ever conceived of in the mind of God, if you will. They don't need a physical body to interact with this world because they operate outside the realms of physics, right? It's like the terms of service agreement. When you want to enter a game world, right, you have to accept the terms of service, and you're bound by those rules. They're not bound by any of these rules, and they can create what we call negative miracles because it's beyond the scope of any human being, right, meaning the power levels that they have. They don't need a body. They don't have a body. Angels and demons don't have bodies. They don't have genders. They're genitalia. Yet they'll manifest as physical forms with genitalia to go after the victims by projecting what those victims desire to work their way into their fields and then appear like they really appear, which are these horrible, awful hags and beasts, as is the case in Dark Siege 2, The Nightmare Returns. They were two of the teenage boys that were attacked by, one was an incubus and one was a succubus attack that they got, and it wrecked their lives. How can you not be destroyed after something like that happens, or have any kind of normal relationship with anybody after you've been completely violated in that way? It's terrible, awful stuff. All because they used a Ouija board in the house to find out why an earthbound human spirit followed the 6-year-old sister home. Don't play with that stuff, man. It saves all of us a bunch of work and nightmares. It's crazy. So you can find all my stuff on darksiege.com, darksiege.com. I have an amazing event called Defeating the Demonic. It's a 10-hour live event in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I have exorcists and demonologists. They're archbishops, Bishop James Long, Bill Bean. We're showing the reality behind these cases to prove to people demons are real, right? And this is the voices, and these are the videos, and these are the horrific things that we experience, that they experience, because they have to clean up the messes that all these paranormal groups are causing by sticking their noses into places they don't belong, and by people using Ouija boards and seances and magic and voodoo and all this other stuff.
Jason, I could talk to you all day, but we got to let you go. Thanks so much for talking to us, and best of luck to you. Thank you.